Hello everyone, my name is Shriya. I'm 17 years old and soon to be a senior at Mason High School. And through my 17 long years of life experience, some things that I've picked up on that parents universally drill into their kids' head are things like, look both ways when crossing the street, don't put your feet on the table, and don't talk to strangers. Easy enough. However, after I broke out of my shell in the 4th grade, the latter, not talking to strangers, became really, really hard for me because I just loved talking to people. And, loving talking to people on the surface isn't such a bad thing, but I'll rewind to the 6th grade and give you some context. My science class in the 6th grade was building rockets, and we were launching them outside. And so if you're not familiar with the Mason Intermediate building, we were in the bus circle, which is just a patch of grass with a road running around it. And I was fidgeting with my rocket, and there was this man who was driving around in a white van in circles. And of course, he stopped next to me, and he looked pretty confused, and I was equally as confused, trying to figure out rocket science. And he stopped by me and asked me, "How do I get to Costco?" It didn't occur to me at the time why a middle-aged man would be asking me, a 12-year-old girl, directions to Costco. But like I said, it didn't faze me, so I gave him my honest answer. I was like, well, my family actually belongs to Sam's Club. So I'm not really sure, but I think that if you go straight and then take left, I know it's by a Barnes & Noble's, but I'm not really sure. And he was genuinely trying to piece together these pieces of information that I was feeding him. And that's when my teacher pulled me aside. And she asked me what in my right mind I thought I was doing. And, I felt bad, but at this point, the man took off and probably never got to Costco. But then my teacher yelled at me, and then my friends yelled at me for, stranger danger. And, a couple of instances like that happened throughout 6th grade and middle school, at Camp Joy, which was our field trip. But nothing about me really changed. I was always, super extroverted, and I stayed that way. I just didn't, engage in talking to strangers very much after that. And I didn't really revisit the chapter of talking to strangers until I entered high school. And high school is a weird place for a lot of people because, we're excited, but we're nervous, so we sweat. And, we're supposed to figure out what we want to do with our lives, and puberty's still doing its work. And like most kids, I didn't know what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. I did know where my general interests lied. I knew that I liked business because I liked working with people, and I knew that politics and government interested me. But whenever people asked me the proverbial, "What do you want to do with the rest of your life?" type question, I would always give them my general interests, and they would always, answer with, "Business and politics are all about networking, and you just got to know the right people, and you got to make connections." And I understand. But the general implication was that you had to meet these people that were successful in the business world, in the political world, with the purpose of getting somewhere. And like I said, I understand because, you have to work with your boss, your colleagues, and those type of people to get somewhere. But I didn't like so much the idea of faking interest in someone else's story, their career, so it could help you get somewhere. Because I always thought what was so interesting about meeting new people was that you got to learn a new story. You got to hear a new perspective. There's a cheesy quote from The Notebook I like that I think sums up the sensation of meeting new people well, analogously. In the story, the main character says to his love interest, "I have a crush on your mind. I fell for your personality. Your looks are just a big bonus." And I know what you're thinking, no 21st century boy would ever say that, and I agree. But the point is that I always thought when I was meeting these new people, I was taking joy in learning their story. And it was always just an added bonus when it could help me find a new opportunity, a new experience. But anyways, I sort of internalized this mindset as I entered high school. And, when I did enter high school, I had all these new people push my way because of new clubs and new activities. And I kind of just went for it and started talking to as many different people as I could. I almost took high school as my own sort of Humans of New York type experiment, if you will. And what I started to find was that these everyday people that I was running into that I usually didn't take notice of had so much to offer me. And, I started to fall in love with the daily spurts of inspiration I was getting. The inspirational quotes, it was like I had this endless list of Pinterest quotes that were right in front of my face. And I started to fall in love with it. Oh, God. But a specific instance I remember was when I was in my freshman year. And I went to the bathroom during my CAD class, and there was this girl fixing her hair there. And I complimented her on her dress, and we started talking. And it was a brief conversation that lasted all of 5 minutes, but I got to learn that she was a senior and that she couldn't wait to graduate and that she really, really wanted to go to Brown University, and that was her dream. And unfortunately, because Mason High School is so large, I never saw this girl again after that bubbly conversation I had with her. But at the end of that year, I was reading a newspaper article, and I saw her name come up. And, I was reading about it, and she was doing all these great things, which in no way surprised me. But at the end of the article, it said that she would be attending Brown University in the fall. And I was so excited for her, even though, it wasn't me going to Brown University in the fall. I was beaming for the rest of that day because of this connection that I had made with this stranger in my freshman year in the bathroom during my CAD class. And it was conversations and connections like that that left me excited to come to school every day. And I know that's shocking, but I wanted to learn more. And that was something foreign to me too, because middle school I used to number on my planner the number of days we had of school left from the very first day of school. And I really hated coming to school. But that changed so quickly after my freshman year. And I was loving learning about people's stories. And even though some of these connections were short and these conversations were short, some of them were much more long-lasting. The summer following my freshman year, my family took our biannual trip to India. And on our way back, one of our connecting flights didn't give us the option to pick our seats. So I was put next to a complete stranger. My original plan was to sleep for the entire 2.5 hours because I had a master plan that I was going to undo the effects of jet lag before they even happened. But, of course, that's not what happened. I sat next to this woman, and maybe it was the fact that I had fallen in love with talking to strangers already my freshman year. Or maybe it was just that the flight was really cold. But I decided to start talking to this woman about how the flight was really cold. And we just kept talking, and soon enough we were spilling our life stories to each other. And there was no reason that, me, a girl from the Midwest, needed to connect with this woman who was 27 years old from New York City. But we made this connection, and, I, a freshman, soon-to-be sophomore, thought my life was complicated at the time until I heard her life story. In summary, at 27, she had recently gotten married, but was being stalked by her ex-boyfriend. And, she got a new job in a different city and she wanted to move, but her husband didn't, and so she was handling a lot. And I loved learning her story, not because of her situation itself, but because of how she was persevering through it. And at the end of that flight, and after 2.5 hours of talking to her nonstop, we exchanged Snapchats. And, it's been 2 years since I've seen this woman, but we still talk every once in a while. And I get to see how far she's come since the struggle she was facing all the way back 2 years ago. And she checks up on me and asks me, how high school is, and she gawks every time, thinking, you still haven't graduated. And, she gives me pieces of advice, which is so helpful, but it's also so nice to have this connection some number of miles away that didn't need to happen, but it still did. And, along with taking joy in learning these people's stories and their perspectives, I was also finding that I was learning to confront those perspectives that I wasn't comfortable with, or that I didn't agree with, or that I hadn't considered. And I was learning so much about the world at no cost at all. I think I need to fix this, but at no cost at all. And I was witnessing myself change in the best way possible. And it wasn't just in, how I approached every day and how I was excited, but just generally how much happier I was every day. But I promise it's not just me preaching that meeting new people, making new connections, and maintaining those leads to happiness. Because there was a Harvard study done for 75 years that proved the exact same thing. And one of the psychiatrists who ran the study actually said, his name was George Valent, that joy is connection. And the more areas of your life you can make that connection, the better. But again, this is a Harvard study, and there's a whole nother TED Talk on that, so I won't get into it. But, you know, I know it's easier said than done talking to people, especially when those people are complete strangers. But I still have the same nerves. I get sweaty, I get nervous, I'm worried I smell funny, or, you know, that they won't realize that I'm talking to them, so I'm stuck waving like this, or that they won't want to talk to me, which is sometimes the case. But what I found is that for every one person that doesn't want to talk to me or won't talk to me, there are 5 others that will talk to me and want to talk to me. And what's so great about going to the largest public high school in the state of Ohio is that with nearly 4,000 students and an abundance of staff members, I could try and talk to someone new every single day for my 4 years here, and I would never run out of people to talk to. And, you know, there's a community of 30,000 outside these walls too, and so on and so forth. And at this point, I've talked a whole lot about talking to strangers to a whole lot of strangers, and if you leave this talk with nothing else, I want you to remember this. Every one of you came here today because you wanted to hear a new story, a new idea, a new perspective. And this organization is so wonderful because it gives people the platform to share their ideas. People who are really passionate about something, the platform to share those ideas. But I also want you to remember that there is a new idea, a new story, a new perspective in the seat right next to you. And you don't even have to come this far to hear those stories. And I want you to ask yourself, who are the extras in the movie of your life that you're ignoring every single day? And I want you to talk to those people. And I want you to learn their story. Because there's those coworkers that you pass by every day that you've never spoken to. The neighbors you've lived by for years but have never talked to. Talk to those people and learn their stories. Because I've witnessed the extras in the movie of my life become my mentors, the people that inspire me the most, and the people I look up to the most. And, you know, I challenge you to talk to some strangers. And, of course, keep yourself safe and maybe avoid the white vans. But talk to some strangers, because I've witnessed it change my life. And I challenge you to talk to some strangers because it might just change yours. Thank you.